afternoon and welcome to the City Club of Portland's Friday Forum, Oregon's premier public affairs forum. I'm Sharon Van Sickle Robbins, City Club President, and I would like to welcome you all, those of you here at the Governor Hotel, and those of you listening on OPB or KBPS radio or watching on Portland Community Media's CityNet 30. Thank you for joining City Club today on Friday, November 19th for our Friday Forum. Today we will hear from 4 of Portland's young nonprofit leaders about their visions for community involvement and civic engagement in Portland. But first, a few announcements. In consideration of those sitting close to you and those listening on our radio and television audiences, would everyone in the room please make sure your cell phones are silenced? I'd like to start by recognizing any new City Club members or City Club members who are here at a Friday Forum for the first time. If there are any of you in the audience, please stand up. We'd like to welcome you. All right. I'd also like to thank our media partners, including Oregon Business Magazine, and I'd like to offer our appreciation to our Friday Forum corporate sponsors, whose generous financial support makes these City Club luncheons possible. Please join me in offering our sincere appreciation to AARP Oregon, the law firm of Barron Liebman, the Confederated Tribes of Grand Ronde, and PGE. If your company or firm would like to be a City Club sponsor, please contact City Club staff at the back of the room or call the City Club offices. In honor of the Thanksgiving holiday, there will be no Friday Forum next week, but you can join us in 2 weeks for a talk about how politics affect and are affected by the availability of water and water resources. Finally, I'd like to announce that although our question and answer sessions are usually open only to City Club members, in honor of community spirit, we'd like to open up questions to everybody here today. So when that time comes, you can go, if you have a question, you can go stand at that mic over there to my left, and that's where the questions will be taken from. And now to today's program. Now in its 7th year, the Skidmore Prize recognizes and encourages long-term commitment to the nonprofit sector and inspires others to get involved. Portland's News Weekly Willamette Week is a driving force behind these prizes. With us today to talk about the Skidmore Prize and to introduce this year's prize winners is Richard Meeker, publisher of Willamette Week. Richard?
Thank you, Sharon. Those of you in the broadcast audience for today's City Club Friday Forum should know that we just awarded the 2010 Skidmore Prize to 4 fabulous and deserving Portlanders. Each received a check for $4,000 and a framed certificate. The goal of the Skidmore Prize is to honor and reward young Portlanders whose work merits the words of a special fountain in Old Town bearing this inscription: "Good citizens are the riches of a city." County Chair Jeff Cogan handed the winners their prizes, and before we get to meet them, I'd like Jeff to make a few remarks. It's his government, after all, that takes the lead in providing social services in this metropolitan area. Jeff?
Thank you, Richard. I was told I have to be brief, so I'm going to be talking very fast. I just first of all want to say how much I appreciate Willamette Week and Richard for creating these prizes and for honoring and acknowledging people working in the nonprofit sector, which I think is really an important thing for us to do. And I also think it's very apt that City Club is hosting this today, because City Club is in many ways the keeper of our civic life in this community. And when I was a kid, I studied civics in school. They used to teach it back then. And what we would study in civics class really was the branches of government. We studied the differences in the branches and who did what, and it was useful and it was important. I mean, it might have had something to do with what I'm doing right now. But if they taught civics now, which alas they often don't, they wouldn't just focus on government. They would focus on the non-governmental sector, the nonprofit sector, which has exploded in the last 30 years, and it's a really good thing that it has. Because I can tell you, in government, in the best of times, we can't meet all of the community's needs. We don't have the resources, and we don't necessarily have the skills to meet all of the needs that our community has. And in many ways, the nonprofit sector has grown up to fill in the gaps there. Now, right now, I don't have to tell you, we're not in the best of times. This is a really challenging time for our community and for our state and for our country. And unfortunately, we have this dichotomy that exists. As the need explodes, government's ability to meet that need goes down. And that creates a tremendous mismatch, and that's what we're living with right now. And so right now, I think nonprofit sector is more important than ever, partially in filling the piece of the need that the government doesn't fill or can't fill. Although, as you're going to hear when you meet the 4 winners today, nonprofit sector is not just about filling in where the government can't fill in. One of the great things about the nonprofit sector is it encourages innovation. It creates a space where new and creative ideas can emerge, new ways of meeting our needs. And you're going to hear, as you listen to Israel and Leah and Gaby and Laura, about which innovative ways they've come and created to help meet the needs in our community. And our community is much, much richer for it. And I also just want to say, one of the great things about this award is that it acknowledges the importance of the nonprofit sector. But another thing that I think is really terrific is that we're honoring emerging younger leaders. And that's something that we need to do because we need to encourage people to get involved in this. We need to have people understand the personal development and opportunities that are available here, but also the opportunities to give back to our community. Because there's a lot of people who want to give back and don't necessarily know how to give back. And this sector and these leaders show us and paint a path for how we can all come together and create a better community. So I'm really excited to be here, and I think you'll be excited too as you hear more about the work that our young leaders have done. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jeff. We're honored by your presence and inspired by your words. And now it's our chance to meet this year's Skidmore Prize winners. Israel Bear, would you be so kind as to come to the podium, introduce yourself, and tell our various audiences about what you do and why you do it?
Thank you, Richard. My name is Israel Bear, and I'm the director of Street Roots. I would like to thank both the Willamette Week and the City Club of Portland for hosting this afternoon's event. It's an honor to be recognized along with others for the work that we do. I would also like to thank the Willamette Week Give Guide team and the other 78 nonprofits that make our city special. When we started at Street Roots, it was a small group of people experiencing homelessness and a handful of naive activists who were bound and determined to change the world. More importantly, we wanted to change the way people experiencing homelessness were viewed and received in Portland. While the world has proven much harder to change than we could have ever imagined, we can say with confidence that over the past 10 years, that thousands of people experiencing poverty, along with thousands of volunteers, readers, and supporters, that we have collectively changed the way the city looks and deals with homelessness. That's due to both the hard work put in by our vendors who sell the newspaper on street corners and in front of neighborhood stores, and readers who take the time to develop honest relationships with people experiencing homelessness. Instead of begging or charity, vendors sell the newspaper. They work hard, 365 days a year, rain and shine, to deliver readers something of value, a newspaper. In return, you have awarded people not only with immediate income to improve their quality of life, but the opportunity to become part of the community. It means giving people hope, self-confidence, self-worth, and dignity. All things that can be stripped away by the trauma and injustices that we know as homelessness. So while I'm humbled by this award, it's not about me, and at the end of the day, it's about all of us, not just at Street Roots, but everyone that takes part in building those relationships and working to change the world, one newspaper and one conversation at a time. And lastly, I don't think it would be fitting to be a homeless advocate or a homeless advocate up here today with this kind of platform and not communicate that with the recession and the rise in poverty that we are looking to all of our elected officials, the media, and ourselves included, and the broader community to continue to push to maintain and find new resources for revenue and for housing and human services in our community. No human being should go without a safe home. And giving to the Give Guide is a great place to start. So thank you.
Israel, I'm sorry to report the City Club has a rule against solicitation of funds, but Leah, Could you come up and introduce yourself and talk a little bit about what you do and where you get your inspiration? This is Leah Hall.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name's Leah Hall, and I was not as prepared as everybody else and wrote out my speech, so I'm kind of just going to give it to you from the heart. I'm the mother of 4 children, and I'm also an addict in recovery, and what that means is that once upon a time, my life wasn't always that great. When people think of addiction, they think of it as a moral travesty, and it's not. It's a disease of the mind, the body, and the spirit. And luckily for me, I got an opportunity to go to treatment, and I got clean. And during that time, I learned how to be a mom to my children. And what I get to do today is I get to teach other moms how to be moms to their children too. And I get to treat them with dignity and respect. And I want to thank Morrison for taking the chance on our program, because most of the people that work in our program are either ex-cons or ex-felons, and they've been involved in the state themselves. And so it's not the typical kind of people you would want working for your company, but I'm standing here today to tell you that addicts do recover, and we do participate in our communities, and we can make a difference in other people's lives. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Next is Gaby Mendez of Neighborhood House.
Hello, I'm Gaby, and I'm a case manager for CASASTART, which is part of Neighborhood House. And I work with elementary school students who have been identified as at risk for different reasons, which could be the attendance, their behavior in school, or possibly a situation at home, or even factors within their own community that places them at risk in falling behind in school, and also getting involved in drugs and delinquency. And my role is to provide the support to them at school, but also at home by providing home visits to the parents. And one of the things that has inspired my work with youth at Neighborhood House is my own role or my own experience regarding education. My family is originally from Mexico, and I am a first-generation college student. My parents' dream for us was always to graduate from high school, but there was really never any thought for us to go beyond that, whether it's higher education, college, university. It just really wasn't part of the talk at home. And it wasn't because my parents didn't value education, but it was just that there wasn't views for a reality or possibility of that even happening. And so I feel like that experience itself really reminds me that one of my responsibilities as a case manager is to expose our students to that reality and possibility that if they want to go to college, they can do that. Regardless of some of the oppressive factors that exist in our society, which are related to culture, to language, to abilities, and even their socioeconomic status. And one of the things that really surprised me last year when I met with a group of my students, I had asked them what it is that they wanted to do after they graduated from high school. And I was somewhat shocked when one of my students responded, I'm not graduating from high school. And when I asked them why they thought that, they were convinced that it was a reality in their life that they weren't going to graduate. And at that moment, I realized how important the work we were doing in that early age, even though some people might think it's elementary school, they're so young, but how critical it is to work with youth at that age to impact their lives, to hopefully help them be more successful later on in life. Although the work within nonprofit, as we've heard, can be challenging. It's very rewarding, not only because of the preventative work that tends to happen in programs within nonprofits, but because of the moments that you're able to connect families to programs and resources that you know are going to help them take one step forward instead of 2 steps back. And that's CASASTART has been very fortunate to be part of Neighborhood House as a whole because we're connected to other programs where we're able to provide those resources like energy assistance, rent assistance, food box, Sun School programs, and many other programs. So it really has become a community effort even within our own agency to provide that support for children and families that we serve. And I just want to take a moment too to thank Rick Nitty, our executive director, who nominated me for this award and really made this opportunity possible. And to all my friends and family that are here today to support me, thank you.
Our fourth Skidmore Prize winner is Laura Streib of the Vibe of Portland. Laura.
Thank you. I thought I'd tell you a little bit about Vibe of Portland, since we're a pretty new organization and a lot of you might not have heard about us. Vibe of Portland was started as an idea that I had while I was in grad school at Portland State. I was working on my master's in music performance. While I was in grad school, I learned about all the cuts that were happening to arts and music around our Portland metro area, and I felt strongly that something needed to be done. After I graduated in 2006, I spent some time researching and figuring out where the need for the arts was the greatest, and how to even go about starting a nonprofit organization. In the fall of 2007, we gained our state and federal nonprofit status, and then in the fall of 2008, we launched our inaugural series of classes at Harrison Park, K-8 in Southeast Portland. Our first classes were an art foundations class and a music foundations class to middle school students. This is a great opportunity to work with these kids because a lot of them have had little experience to no experience to the arts and music. After we received a grassroots grant from the Meyer Memorial Trust, we were able to start offering a Beyond Guitar Hero class, which is teaching the kids how to actually play the guitar as opposed to playing a video game for points. For our first 2 years, we kept things small. We offered our Art Foundations class and our Beyond Guitar Hero class in partnership with the Sun School program at Harrison Park. Each of these classes were building relationships with our kids and attracting more and more students to the arts. In June of this year, we hosted an art gala down in the Pearl for our students on First Thursday. We watched them walk into the art gallery with their artwork on the wall. Their faces lit up. They were so excited. They'd been planning their outfits for weeks, and they'd just been bubbly, really excited about it. I think some of them had probably never even been to downtown Portland. Their whole world was in Southeast. So that experience was a capstone to a year of creativity and hard work on their part. And it was fabulous to be able to reward their achievements in a public setting. It was a great way to end our school year. And this year has been amazing for Vibe. We received a missional grant from a Mago Day community, and we also won a Pepsi Refresh grant in July. And those two grants have helped us be able to expand our programming at Harrison Park to 4th through 8th graders. And now we have 7 classes going at Harrison Park. We still have our Art Foundations and our Beyond Guitar Hero class, but now we offer percussion, we have a glee choir, we have a comic book illustration class, we have knitting, and we also have an elementary Art Foundations class. All of these classes are increasing the amount of students we get to work with and the amount of creativity and experience those children get. Watching these kids grow in their artistry is why I started Vibe. A lot of our students would probably not have this opportunity to experience art and music if we weren't able to provide these classes for them. One of our students, Tara, has been involved with Vibe since she was a 6th grader when we first started our classes. I overheard her talking to our art teacher the other day that because of our art classes, she now feels that she is an artist. She looks at the world as a canvas and how she wants to paint it and sees all the vibrant colors in life. We just wrapped up our classes this week for the quarter. It was really fun to see the kids already excited about our next quarter of classes and already talking about, are you going to take this class? Are you going to be here? One of our kids came up to our guitar teacher and said, I'm going to take guitar forever and ever and ever and ever until you have to kick me out because I think it's so much fun. Hearing these stories, and I could probably tell you a billion other ones, is why we started Vibe and this is why we want to expand our offerings to more schools in Portland. It's been quite an amazing year for Vibe. Not only have we won those grants that have expanded our programming, we've been able to start a music scholarship for kids to take private music lessons. And that is in part thanks to a woman up in Vancouver named Kathy Grant. We currently have 8 students in our Play Scholarship. They are taking lessons in voice, cello, viola, percussion, and composition, all with local musicians in the Portland area. We're also getting ready to launch a series of art classes at Tabor Space in Southeast in January, being able to expand how many more kids get to experience art on a daily basis. It's been so amazing to see what Vibe has done in just 4 years, going from an idea that I had in grad school to a real-life organization that's encouraging hundreds of kids to explore their own creativity through arts and music. We are connecting local musicians and artists to kids in our community, and we're working to keep alive that great culture of creativity that Portland is known for. All of this is much better than I could have ever imagined, and I'm thrilled at what Vibe has become and where it will be going in the next few years. Thank you.
As you can tell, what these 4 people do does really embody CES Woods on the Skidmore Fountain. But you also need to know there were dozens of others nominated for this award, and this community is filled with great citizens who do wonderful work. Now, I have the privilege of beginning the questioning of our 4 winners, and what you get for winning is not just a check and a certificate, but a bunch of questions from me and from City Club. But first, Israel, when you spoke, you didn't talk too much about your inspiration for what you do. Could you take a minute and do what the other 3 have done and explain why you're interested in Street Roots or how you got involved?
I started volunteering at Street Roots when I was, I guess, 22 years old, and I grew up in a very industrial environment with a lot of poverty around us. And for me, the idea of mixing media with poverty was something that just meshed from the beginning. And I thought for myself and my own struggles, it was a way for me to be able to tell other people's stories was something that was magical. So when I discovered the street newspaper movement, it was something that just I knew that I wanted to dedicate my life to.
Okay, thank you. Laura, you painted a very positive picture of what you've done. You go to school, get a degree, and then put it to use, and everything seems hunky-dory. What's been the biggest challenge of starting and continuing the Vibe of Portland? And you can use that microphone.
Probably our biggest challenge is the funding, and there's tons of artists and musicians in Portland that are excited about kids, but really it's finding the money to be able to make all these things happen.
So did anybody at Portland State in your master's program help you find funding? Or tell you how to do that?
Nope.
So how did you figure out what to do?
Tax was very helpful. The executive director, Beth Burns at Pear, was immensely helpful. I would go to her with questions, and she would be like, we started this from scratch. Here's what you need to know. Read this book. It's like the Bible to nonprofits. Just talking to a lot of people in the community and really seeing what needed to be out there.
Gaby, in the midst of this now long-standing recession, I assume Morrison Child and Family Services is affected in a number of ways, as is CASASTART. Can you talk just a little bit about what kinds of innovations you have to implement to deal with this, and also what the impact on your clientele is of this recession?
Well, I think the lack of resources has really allowed and encouraged us to be creative with our resources. It's also been one of the focuses of CASASTART when coming into the St. John's area was emphasizing the importance of community and how as a community we're all responsible for that child being successful. And it's really been tapping into the local businesses, the parents, the families, and the large population that exists there that's diverse in different cultures and what they have to bring. So it's really been empowering not only for the parents to also be able to provide resources and even though it's limited, but it could be their time, their efforts to make things happen within the school, and also being creative with the staff and brainstorming, and even within our agency to figure out what organizations too can support our efforts, like partnering with different programs, being able to take the kids to Blazer games, to OMSI, to different opportunities within the community.
Great. Leah, yours is a story of true inspiration to all of us. I'm wondering if I could ask you what you think you might be doing 5 years from now.
I guess in 5 years from now, I'm also, not only do I work full-time and have 4 children, but I also go to college full-time. And so I'm working on my MSW, and I've just begun. So in 5 years, hopefully, I will be done with college. That's shooting for the stars, I think, right now. But, I really want to have an opportunity to help our program expand to other counties, because we only serve clients in Multnomah County. And we're that missing link for a lot of parents in order to figure out that they can do this, they can make those changes, they can be that parent that they want to be. And, I think everybody has a desire to be that good parent, and we help. And, I really want our program to expand all of Oregon first, and then all of the country.
Now, before I cede the podium to Sharon and others for questioning, I want to ask a somewhat impolite question of each of you. Starting with Israel, could you just go down the row and tell the audience what you're going to do with the money you receive with this prize?
I've chosen to give the $4,000 back to Street Roots with the hopes that people around Portland will join us in giving so we can better our programs.
I'm taking all of my kids to Disneyland.
Oh, boy.
I'm paying for my tuition at Portland State.
And we're having our second child in April, so that's where that money's going.
Good planning. Sharon, the podium is yours. Thank you all very much.
The first question for our speakers, as always, will be from our City Club host. And our host today is Ken Ray, who serves as a Senior Public Affairs Coordinator at Metro. He's a Portland native and joined the City Club in 2001. He currently serves on our New Leaders Council and our Board of Governors. Ken?
Well, first, on behalf of City Club, I want to thank you for contributing to the riches of our city. It's truly an honor for us to be able to take part in this recognition of your achievements and contributions to our community, so thank you very much for all that you have done. I'd like to ask you what the greatest public misperceptions are about the people you serve, and how we as active and civically engaged citizens can best help you in countering those misperceptions. And any one of the 4 of you or all of you could answer it in turn.
I think one of the misperceptions with the families that I work with is a lot of times we blame individuals for not seeking out opportunities, and that it's more on the person than actually our systems. And I think that's a real human error because the systems are the ones that need to change to be able to support our families in reaching their highest potential as a family or as an individual. So I think that's one of the things that as a society we need to work on in looking at the bigger picture and looking at the bigger systems that are creating some of these unfortunate situations.
I'll go. We work with kids in a high poverty area, and since there's not a lot of art and music in that area, I think people think maybe no art or creativity or music can come out of those areas. But we've seen some amazing kids just really flourish, and just seeing their music that they create or seeing the art that they create has been really amazing. Just the next Yo-Yo Ma could come out of that school. We don't know.
I think the biggest misconception that we face is that people experiencing homelessness are all lazy and don't want to do for themselves. And one of the things that I think Street Roots and a lot of different work programs are doing is showing that people are trying to do for themselves, and they're not asking for a handout, but a hand up, and they get up every morning. It's hard to be homeless. It's not an easy thing, so there's kind of a misconception that Portland is a magnet for people experiencing homelessness, when in fact it's very difficult to be homeless. And I think our vendors show that they're able to work hard and better their lives, and I think that really helps.
I think one of the most common misconceptions about somebody who's addicted and the parents that I work with is that they never get better, and they'll always be that way, and they don't love their children. And we all know that's a lie. And I can tell you that 7 years ago I was on my way to prison, and here I sit in front of you. And so I know that the parents that I work with have the ability to be great people.
We're now going to open it up for questions from the floor. And again, the microphone is over here to my left. So you can go ahead and gather there for asking the questions. I never get to ask a question, so I'm going to take an opportunity today to do this. We've been hearing a lot since the election about the kind of priorities we need to identify, not only for the whole country, but for our communities here locally, for the state, because there's not going to be enough money for a while to be able to fund all of the things that we need to provide in our communities. And often we hear a lot of folks who aren't your age giving us their opinions about what they think those priorities should be. And I'd like to ask you to give us kind of the vantage point from your generation of where you think our priorities need to be as we look forward and try and make decisions as communities about what we're going to fund first in our communities. So you guys can go in whatever order you'd like on that.
It would be great to have a mandatory minimum for human services in the state of Oregon. That would be great. But I think that housing from our perspective, that education, quality of life, everything is connected to housing. And in our community, people that are not only experiencing homelessness but poverty are being outpriced of our city, in our region, and everything starts with a safe home from our perspective. And I think that if we can continue to push for revenue streams for that, that we no longer will be faced with the burden of having to spend so much money on prisons, et cetera, et cetera. So.
I think kind of going along those lines, I think that a lot more resources need to be invested in preventative services instead of always coming in when it's time to intervene or provide an intervention. When sometimes, you know, it's something that could have been maybe with the right supports in place, given some other options or alternatives. So I think that's a lot of resources are definitely given into that intervention piece where maybe we can put more efforts and energy to prevent some of the things.
I definitely think that education for our future generations is huge, whether that's math and reading or the arts and music. I think they're all intertwined and will help create better citizens in our city as it grows.
I think what I really think is that we need more drug and alcohol treatment for women and men that allow them to have their children with them while they're in an inpatient. The statistics show that when parents have their children placed with them, they do a better job in their treatment and they have a better probability of staying clean. There's just not the resources out there for people to have their kids while they're in treatment. And plus it costs the state a lot less money to put a mom and a child through treatment than it does to put a mom in prison and a child in foster care.
Thank you. Now I'm going to turn over to the microphone. So if you'll just give us your name as you ask your question, that'd be great.
My name is Paddy Tillett, member of the City Club. It sometimes appears that non-profits exist in a sort of parallel universe to the human services which are publicly funded. And one would wish that there were greater communication between the two. Do you see any opportunities for being more effective by working more closely with the public authorities? And that question is open to anyone on the podium. Thank you.
Yeah, I think that anytime we're able to work in partnership with government institutions, the public, businesses, foundations, et cetera, we will be able to streamline services in a way that we can prevent a lot of the things that happen in our community, homelessness, poverty, et cetera. So I think that there's some great partnerships that exist, but I think that we have to shift our mentality to some degree and focus on, we're in the middle of a recession, and you look at the different things on the ballots. I think it's crucial that in our next ballot cycles that housing is a priority, because without housing, we're just going to continue to pick up the pieces in our community. So,
Ted Kay, City Club member. First, I'd like to draw everyone's attention to the City Club logo on the podium. It's the Skidmore fountain, the namesake of the Skidmore Awards. Now here's my question, and I apologize that it's a hypothetical question for each of you. If your organization were to receive an unsolicited, anonymous gift of $100,000, how would you spend it?
If you write me a check for $100,000 right now, I'll tell you how I'll spend it.
Good luck getting it that way. That's a question for each of you. Would you tell us how you would spend money, a big chunk of money, if you got it?
Quickly, this is an unscripted program. The only scripting I did was to warn the 4 winners that they might be asked this question, and I'm the one who planted the idea to ask for the payment in advance. But why don't a couple of you try to answer it?
Well, if I was given $100,000 for Vibe, we would be able to expand our programming to several schools in the area and provide a lot more kids with art and music private lessons.
If I was given that money, I think, my coworker Matthew Williams would probably agree with me, we could take our kids to so many places that they've asked us that they want to go to. And I think that those dreams would actually be able to come true.
if we had that money, we would be able to potentially set the groundwork to go weekly that would double our vendors' income overnight.
I think that if we were able to get $100,000, it sounds like a lot of money, but for as many clients as we serve, it really doesn't end up being all that much. And what I would want to do with it is to help with the housing of our parents that are coming out of inpatient treatment centers or bad situations where they're living so that they can have a new life and a new home.
Noah Kleiman. I'm not a City Club member, but I am a Skidmore Prize winner. Hi. My question, first of all, welcome to the club. Secondly, my question is for Israel. I saw you talk, I think it was last week, about some of the innovative programs that are not the vendor program or the newspaper that you guys publish, but were related to helping homeless people and people who are in crisis have access to a handy little, I think you called it the Hobo Bible. What's it called?
It's the Hobo Bible on the streets. It's officially it's the Rose City Resource.
The Rose City Resource, and I was very impressed by by getting one and seeing what was all in there. I was hoping that maybe you might be able to articulate to the people here who might have access to printing services, a little bit of sort of social benefit donation money, how much it would cost for your organization to bring back the Spanish language version of that Hobo Bible.
I think for the Spanish, we had this conversation, it would be around $60,000. I would also like to add that we lost funding 2 months ago because we were defunded by the Catholic Campaign for Human Development because we list Planned Parenthood in the Rose City Resource Guide, and we decided as a group that it was not ethical for us to take Planned Parenthood out of the guide, so we continued to have Planned Parenthood in the guide, and so Ironically, it's actually created a relationship with us and Planned Parenthood that we're actually going to be able to target women on the streets to access more services on one hand, and two, it's actually strengthened our relationship with some of the parishes in town. So the right wing got our money, but they couldn't take away our relationship. So.
Hi, my name is Janessa Dodema, and I am also not a City Club member, but I have a lovely group of soon-to-be young professionals under 18 here with me, and I'm just wondering if you guys have some words of wisdom or advice for them in navigating possibly careers in nonprofits.
It's a lot of work, but it's really worth it to get into whatever you're passionate about and really go for it. That's my advice, is just do what you love.
And I think along those lines, it's there's such a variety within nonprofit work, and so it really is finding what you feel passionate about. And we all know there's plenty of issues out there that we can fight for. So I think that it's just identifying that and knowing that you can change that later on too.
My name's Maria. I'm from Milwaukee High School's Community 101. And my question is to Israel. What would you refer to the young public to give, what kind of advice would you give us if we see a homeless person in the street asking for change as opposed to buying a newspaper?
That's a tough question. I think that it's up to individuals, right? Everybody has a different perspective on panhandling in our city, and I think that there are people that develop genuine relationships, whether they're asking for money or whether they're selling the newspaper, with individuals on this, with community members. And I think if people are respectful and kind and aren't up in people's faces, then I think that that's an individual decision that rests with people. So I wouldn't discourage anybody from giving money. Obviously, I would encourage people to buy street roots, but I think human beings are human beings. This whole idea of people that are panhandling somehow have it better than others is a ruse, because anytime you're begging on the streets, it's undignified and it strips away your dignity. And so, whether you're begging for the electric bill that month or begging for your survival or selling street roots, at the end of the day, they're all human beings. So I would leave that up to the individual.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Tania, and this is Jerson, and we're from David Douglas Community 101, and this is for Israel. And we just had a question: what is the criteria? Is there an age limit? Is it men and women? Do they have to be? Will they be on drugs? Will they be on alcohol? Like, what is the criteria for being homeless and being, because when you don't have anything and when you're homeless and when you really need money, is this the way to go, or is this the first step? Is this the first start?
Selling the newspaper is really a stepping stone for many individuals. So I would say that there are a certain portion of the homeless population or people living in poverty that sell the newspaper for a day, a week, a month, and that's all that we see them. And there are other individuals that last longer and sell the newspapers. Those individuals tend to be individuals dealing with mental or physical disabilities, the elderly. So if you've had a vendor that you've seen for a number of years, it's most likely that they're dealing with a circumstance in their life that they may be not able to have regular employment. So we deal with about 400 to 500 people that sell on the streets every year, and about 80 at any regular time. So a lot of people see the same face and think, oh, why is that person continuing to sell street roots? But 4 out of 5 people are only selling for a certain portion of time to be able to be a stepping stone out of their situation. And then we openly work with everybody, so we believe in harm reduction, and that we should meet people where they're at and then go from there. So,
Thank you.
Rick Nitty, and I am a City Club member. I've got a comment for Israel and a question for Gaby. Israel, I see Bob, and I don't know his last name, every Sunday, rain or snow, selling paper at the Hillsdale Farmers Market. and I've got an incredible amount of respect for what he does. So thank you for that opportunity for him. Gaby, you talked about oppression and how it impacts children and families. Can you talk a little bit about your work in bringing Hispanic parents into the school and getting them engaged at Sitten?
Yeah, CASASTART started at Sitten Elementary about 2.5 years ago, and one of the things the principal informed us when we met with her was that Latino families made 40% of the student body, and yet they weren't visible or they weren't present in the school. They made sure their kids were there, ready to learn, but the parents were not there. And as we know, education in the United States is very parent involvement. It's crucial, it's critical. And so I started by, we started with the one meeting, wanting to share information about the school. I teamed up with a few staff members to try to bring the families into the school, and we had 30 plus parents. We stopped counting at 30. And there was such an engagement by the parents. The meeting was held in Spanish, and there was a few opportunities for parents to be activists for their own children, and so that I think motivated them to really understand that they had power behind their voice. After that meeting, they said, "Are we meeting again?" And I said, "Oh, well, we can do it again in 2 months, so we can do it every 2 months." And they said, "Okay, that's great." At the end of the school year in June, they said, "Well, next year we're going to meet again, right?" And we said, "Sure." And then they said, "Well, we'd like to meet every month," and that parent meeting has been strong ever since. We've been going for 2 years now, and the parents are very involved. We always encourage at the end of the meeting for them to volunteer in the school, and they have. The staff has also allowed the opportunities, even though language can become a barrier, but opening their classrooms for parents to actually come in. So that was one of the things I felt really passionate about, because I also understood culturally that was something different. That wasn't something comfortable for them, was that why do we need to be in the school? But we definitely have gotten to a level of understanding where there's a level of respect for the culture, but also to know that it is critical to have some involvement for the success of their children.
Okay, hi, I'm Richard from Milwaukee High School's Community 101 program, and I have a question for the two ladies in the center. If you know, on average, how much funding do your programs receive? And if we've already discussed a larger contribution, like $100,000, but if you were to receive, let's say, a smaller one as maybe $1,000, what is the direct impact of that donation? Like, would it keep one child off? Just like give me a specific example.
I don't know. Yeah. I know we're kind of discussing it over here. I honestly don't know. I'm not involved with funding, and so I'm not really familiar with that. I would imagine if it came directly to our program, we might be able to use it directly for the students, but I'm not sure. Sorry.
Hello, my name is Denise Kowalczyk, and I'm a City Club member. First of all, congratulations, and thank you for all the work that you guys do. A little bit of a lighthearted question. With all the intensity of the work and your passion and everything that you do in your work, what do you do for fun?
Well, I have 4 children, so my life is always fun. You know, me and my husband play on a co-ed softball team. My girls are in Girl Scouts, and I help lead those Girl Scout troops. Go in my room and shut the door and read a book is fun for me sometimes, to just shut the world out. You know, my job at least can be very traumatizing for me, having to be a part of some of the traumatic events that my clients are going through. And so just making sure that I take care of myself and my own recovery first, that makes it so that I can better serve my clients.
I'm with Leah. I have a 1.5-year-old girl who's tons of fun. And what we do for fun is we hang out with her. We have great friends that we spend time with and enjoy the city.
For fun. I don't have children, so, but I do work full-time, and I'm also going to school, so there's not a whole lot of room for fun right now. But it definitely comes through spending time with my friends and my family, so.
Yeah, I would say friends and family are the most important thing.
My name is Ashley Holmer, and I have two questions, kind of in two parts, but are related. First, I'm founder of a nonprofit myself, and so I can just say congratulations for all the hard work. I know what it's like to build something from the ground up, and it is not easy. My first question is, and it's something that I'm asked a lot, is did you see yourself in this line of work? And two, because there are quite a few younger people in this audience today, what would be your one piece of advice that you would give to those who are looking to get into the nonprofit field or who have an idea and they want to take it to the next step?
I guess I'll answer. I never saw myself in this type of work. My only goal or aspiration was to be a mom when I was younger. Nobody ever told me I could go to college or make something of myself. And so just to be a mom was a big enough thing. And you know, there's opportunity for everybody out there in nonprofit, and that's what I would tell the young people here is that whatever you're passionate about, there's a nonprofit for that, and you can participate in it.
Growing up, I probably saw myself being a music teacher, and the current climate for music teachers isn't all that great, so I decided to start a nonprofit, which I think is a little bit harder, but it's been very rewarding and exciting.
Hello, I am Natalie from the Milwaukee High School Community 101, and our mission statement is to help nonprofit organizations with child abuse, substance abuse, and education. And I was just wondering how your nonprofit organizations target those specific examples.
Well, my nonprofit is the Parents Anonymous program, and we're the parent mentors, and that's the population that we work with. We work with parents who have substance abuse issues and have had their children removed by the state, and we help them learn a new way of life in order to get those kids back.
In CASASTART too, that's kind of part of our model, and what we do is work closely with the parents. As case manager, we try to connect them with other programs and resources within the community that they feel comfortable with. Finding culturally specific programs, whether it's a treatment program, which are kind of hard to find, but we do try to make sure that it's a good fit for the family, and also just build a strong relationship as a case manager. That I think we found goes a long ways in parents feeling comfortable and even disclosing information or even just being vulnerable at times and acknowledging when things are hard, and that then opens the door for us to be able to know what supports to identify for them.
Portland works in Portland Public Schools, and we partner with the Sun School program. So all of our teachers take some child abuse training classes, and we just pay attention to our kids and work with the Sun School programs to identify any problems that there might be.
We work with harm in the harm reduction model, so we're openly working with users and people who are clean, so it's a very challenging environment. It's very controversial, especially since people actually sell the newspaper. But you know, we kind of stick our neck out on the line, believing in people. It's fascinating that people freak out over the idea that somebody who is dealing with addiction may be selling the newspaper. But in all honesty, you know, when we work with the police and other groups, we know that an individual who's selling street roots is not involved in petty crime. They're not involved in illegal activities. They're not ending up in prison and cycling through the cycle. So we're able to work with them and stabilize those individuals, at least to be in a place where they can have outreach and access to services. So.
Hi, my name is Leslie Johnson. Congratulations also from me on the recognition that you're getting for your service. One of the things that really strikes me about all of you is that at a relatively young age, you found a vocation that you feel very passionate and enthusiastic about. It takes a lot of people a lot longer than it's taken you to do that, and a lot of people don't find that because I think it doesn't strike them that they are entitled to have that feeling about the thing that they do for their everyday work. I wonder if you have looked back and identified something in your past, in your upbringing, your parents, or a mentor in school or something like that that planted that seed, the notion that the work that you do should be rewarding and not just economically or financially rewarding.
For me, it was my parents that really, I think, raised us with very strong values around family, culture, respecting our culture, but also respecting those around us. And so that really kind of always stayed in the back of my mind as I was trying to figure out what I wanted to do. And being in a position of being a strong advocate, even for our own community, but also those that form part of the Portland community, which it's a very diverse community. And I think through that I've experienced a lot of rich experiences working with the Somali community, not only the Latino community, but just learning from those experiences. And I think that has been a strong motivation for me, and it really has come from just the values that my parents have passed down to me too.
My family has really been encouraging of the arts. I grew up in a community that very much valued arts and music, and we had strong band and choir and arts programs all the way kindergarten through high school. I still keep in contact with my elementary music teacher, my high school choir director, and just having those opportunities really developed me into the person I am today, and I really want that for kids who don't have that opportunity.
For me, it was my mother. I was raised by a single mother, and I saw her struggling and doing so much. So that was, I always knew that she was a mentor and a guiding light in my life. I quit high school when I was a junior in high school, and I was going through some very troubling times, and I had an English teacher that knew that I loved to write and read. Came down to me the day I was actually in an in-school suspension and told me, and she wanted to talk to me because she knew that I potentially could walk away from school at that moment. And she didn't actually try to stop me from quitting school, but she told me, whatever you do, get out of this town. And I did. And then she said, I always held those words to, she knew that I had the ability to do things. She just knew that I was in an environment that wasn't healthy, so.
Hi, I'm Tess Nelson, member of City Club, and this question's for Israel. I used to know someone, a kid a year younger than me, who actually chose to be homeless, and I was wondering if your program helped to encourage those kids who actually chose to live on the streets to maybe change their mindset, or if that's even possible.
I think that there are a group of youth, it's all perspective, right? Choice is an interesting thing. It's like that English teacher telling me not to stay in school, but to get out of town. You have to be able to meet people where they're at. So many of the youth that I think are kind of put in this box of choosing to be homeless may be coming from any number of environments at home, in life, that may be affecting their decision-making process, where they're at. They're young, they're going through puberty, they're full of angst and anger in their lives. So the idea that this whole population is choosing to be homeless, there's much more to the story than just a choice to be homeless. So being homeless is indignified. It robs you of your humanity. So I think that anybody that is homeless for any amount of time comes to the conclusion that they don't want to be homeless. It's just a matter of if you can reach them at a certain time in their life. So.
Hi, Brianne Arnold, City Club member.
with a shameless plug for volunteerism. I was wondering if your agencies use volunteers, and if they do, if you could let the community know what they can do to help you out. Thanks.
I didn't hear the question.
Vibe of Portland is always looking for volunteers. If people, even if they're not artistic and they just want to spend time with kids, helping out with our art teachers or our music teachers, we definitely have lots of space for you to come help out and hang out with some pretty amazing kids.
CASASTART also, we like to use volunteers. I know that it's been challenging because, again, the situation right now, it's really hard for individuals to give of their time, but we love volunteers and we welcome them anytime.
And Morrison also accepts and allows volunteers to come and work with the clients there.
We're always working with volunteers, whether it's people interested in editorial stuff or working directly with people on the streets, and you can find out more at streetroots.org.
We've run out of time for further questions, and we'll have to stop for this week. Please join us again in 2 weeks to learn more about the politics of water. And as we close, please join me in expressing our appreciation to the 2010 Skidmore Prize winners, Israel Baer, Leah Hall, Gaby Mendez, and Laura Streib. We're adjourned.